Before Wall Street, before Silicon Valley, before the great industrial empires of the modern world, there was Mali, an empire nestled in the heart of West Africa, so unimaginably rich that its ruler could shatter foreign economies with the sheer force of his generosity. This is the story of a man whose wealth was so vast it remains legendary to this day. A king who controlled the world's most precious resources and used them not just to build an empire, but to change the world's perception of Africa forever. Forget everything you think you know about wealth. We are going back to a time when gold flowed like a river, and one man stood at its source. This is the story of Mansa Musa, the richest human being in all of history. The year is 1280. The world is a patchwork of rising and falling kingdoms. In Europe, the great cathedrals are reaching for the heavens. In Asia, the Mongol Empire dominates the landscape. But here, in West Africa, another power is flourishing. The Mali Empire, stretching from the windswept shores of the Atlantic Ocean, deep into the continent, straddling the life-giving Niger River. This was not an isolated kingdom, but a global crossroads. A vibrant hub where caravans bearing precious salt from the north met traders carrying gold from the south. It was a nexus of commerce, culture, and ideas. Mali stood at the center of the world's most lucrative trade routes, controlling the flow of gold, salt, and knowledge, the very currencies of power. In the year 1312, a change of leadership would set Mali on a path to legendary status. The emperor at the time, Abu Bakr II, was a man consumed by curiosity and the call of the unknown. He dreamed of the world that lay beyond the vast Atlantic. Abdicating his throne, he equipped a massive fleet of 2,000 ships and sailed west into the horizon in search of the ocean's edge. He was never seen again. In his absence, the heavy crown of the Mali Empire fell upon the head of his deputy, a man named Musa. At the age of 32, Mansa Musa ascended to the throne. He was not just a regent holding a place, he was a visionary, a man destined to take the immense resources of his empire and redefine the very meaning of wealth. Mali's power was built on two essential commodities: salt and gold. To the people of the Sahara and beyond, salt was as precious as life itself. It was white gold, mined from vast, sun-scorched flats in the desert and transported by camel caravans across thousands of miles. The empire's veins literally ran with salt, a resource that preserved food and sustained life in the arid climate. But if salt was the empire's veins, its heart beat with pure, unadulterated gold. The lands of Mali, particularly the regions of Bambouk and Bure, were home to some of the richest gold mines the world has ever known. Gold dust shimmering in the sun, nuggets pulled from the earth. Mali controlled more than half of the Old World's entire supply. This dual monopoly gave Mansa Musa a level of economic power that was simply unparalleled. With this incredible wealth at his command, Mansa Musa was not just a ruler, he was an architect of civilization. He turned his focus to transforming his cities into centers of culture and learning that would rival any in the world. And no city benefited more from his vision than Timbuktu. Under Musa's patronage, this remote desert outpost blossomed into a legendary metropolis. Mosques with soaring minarets, like the magnificent Djinguereber and Sankore, were constructed by the most skilled architects of the age. Libraries were filled with countless scrolls, attracting scholars, poets, and mathematicians from across Africa and the Middle East. The city's markets bustled with merchants trading ivory, spices, and, of course, gold. Timbuktu became more than just a trade hub. It became a lighthouse of knowledge, a beacon of Islamic scholarship and commercial prosperity. In 1324, Mansa Musa, a devout Muslim, decided to undertake the Hajj, the sacred pilgrimage to Mecca. But this would be no ordinary journey. This was a procession designed to announce Mali's arrival on the world stage. An enormous caravan was assembled, a moving city of 60,000 people including 12,000 attendants, all dressed in the finest silks. Leading the procession were 500 heralds, each carrying a staff of pure gold. Behind them followed a train of 100 camels, each one laden with 300 pounds of gold dust. As this river of humanity and wealth began its 4,000-mile trek across the Sahara Desert, it was a spectacle the world had never seen. The sun glinted off the shimmering gold, a golden serpent winding its way across the dunes. The pilgrimage had begun, and the world was about to be shaken. After months of travel, the colossal caravan arrived in Cairo, Egypt, a major center of the Islamic world. What happened next would become the stuff of legend. Mansa Musa, in an act of extraordinary piety and generosity, began distributing his gold. He gave it to the poor, to the merchants, to the scholars, and to the Sultan of Egypt. He showered the city with so much gold that its value plummeted. The influx was so massive that it completely destabilized the regional economy, causing prices to crash. It would take Cairo's markets over a decade to fully recover from Mansa Musa's visit. Imagine being so rich that you could single-handedly cause an economic crisis simply by giving your money away. This event was a stunning demonstration of power, a statement that echoed far beyond the markets of Cairo. News of the man who could break an economy with his charity spread like wildfire. For the first time, the sheer scale of West Africa's wealth entered the consciousness of Europe and the Middle East. Mapmakers, who had once depicted the African interior as a blank space, now rushed to update their charts. In the famous Catalan Atlas of 1375, one of the most important world maps of the medieval era, a new figure appeared. There, seated on a throne in the heart of West Africa, is a portrait of a regal African king. He holds a golden orb in one hand and a golden scepter in the other. The inscription beside him reads, "This black lord is called Musa Mali, Lord of the Negroes of Guinea. So abundant is the gold which is found in his country that he is the richest and most noble king in all the land." Mansa Musa had literally put his empire on the map. When Mansa Musa finally returned from his pilgrimage, his caravan was even larger than when he had left. He had spent and given away a fortune in gold, but he came back with a treasure of far greater value. He brought back ideas. He had recruited the leading architects, scholars, poets, and thinkers of the Islamic world, persuading them to come to Mali. Among them was the famed poet and architect from Andalusia, Abu Ishaq al-Sahili, who would go on to design some of Timbuktu's most iconic buildings. Musa returned not just with souvenirs, but with a vision to transform his kingdom into a global center for learning and culture. His journey had broadcast Mali's wealth to the world. His return journey brought the world's knowledge back to Mali. In the years following his Hajj, the Mali Empire reached its absolute zenith. The new architectural styles and intellectual energy Musa brought back fueled a cultural renaissance. Cities like Timbuktu and Gao flourished, becoming jewels of the Sahel. Under the light of torches, children studied the Quran and sciences in the new mosques and universities. Markets teemed with traders from as far away as Venice and Granada. The empire was safe, prosperous, and intellectually vibrant. At its peak, Mansa Musa's Mali was arguably the most powerful and wealthiest state on earth. A sophisticated, urbanized kingdom richer and more advanced than many of the European empires that would one day seek to colonize the continent. His reign stands as a testament to a golden age, a powerful reminder of the incredible depth and richness of African history. While we marvel at Mansa Musa's pilgrimage of gold, we must also look into the shadows from which this incredible wealth was forged. For every ounce of gold that dazzled the world, there were hands that bled unseen, bodies that toiled under a punishing sun. In the salt mines of Tagaza and the gold fields of Bambouk, the story wasn't one of glittering splendor, but of grueling, forced labor. The prosperity of the Mali Empire was built on a foundation of human cost, a stark reality often omitted from the shimmering tales of its king. This wasn't just a kingdom of commerce. It was an empire sustained by the sweat and sacrifice of countless individuals whose names are lost to history. The gold was a symbol of power, but it was also a heavy burden, carried by the many for the glory of one. The borders of the Mali Empire were not drawn with ink, but etched with the sword. Mansa Musa's reign, celebrated for its peace and prosperity within, was also a period of aggressive expansion. The empire's growth was fueled by conquest. Imagine the thundering hooves of the Malian cavalry, banners flying as they descended upon neighboring territories. Villages that had known peace for generations were engulfed in the smoke of conflict, their autonomy absorbed into the ever-expanding dominion of Mali. This expansion secured vital trade routes and brought new resources and peoples under Musa's control, but it came at the price of sovereignty and blood. It is a sobering reminder that many of history's greatest empires grew not through trade alone, but through the sharp and decisive edge of military might. Picture Mansa Musa, standing on a balcony of his magnificent palace in Niani, overlooking a city burnished with gold. He was the master of a vast domain, a monarch whose name was whispered with awe from the Sahara to the Mediterranean. Yet, even surrounded by unimaginable wealth, a profound solitude can be found. He commanded armies, controlled the flow of gold, and shaped the destiny of millions. He could build mosques and universities that would stand for centuries, but he could not command time itself. Every sunset was a reminder that his reign, like all things, was finite. This golden king was still a mortal man, grappling with the weight of his power and the future of the empire he had built. His legacy was cemented in gold, but his ultimate fate was the same as the humblest of his subjects. Empires, no matter how golden, are not eternal. After Mansa Musa's death, the Mali Empire began a slow, inexorable decline. The immense wealth that held it together also made it a target. Internal succession disputes weakened the throne, while rival states like the rising Songhai Empire chipped away at its territories. The once secure trade routes became vulnerable. Imagine watching a map of Mali slowly fade, its vibrant colors receding as its borders shrink. The great libraries of Timbuktu, once centers of world learning, were eventually threatened, their precious manuscripts at risk of being lost to the encroaching sands. When the seemingly endless supply of gold began to dwindle, the empire's story seemed to run out with it. The Golden Age was over, but the legend was just beginning. Mansa Musa died nearly 700 years ago, but his story transcends time. He has become a myth, a symbol of ultimate wealth and power. When we see his depiction in the 14th century Catalan atlas, draped in gold and holding a massive nugget, we see the birth of a legend that echoes to this day. His shadow stretches across the centuries, falling upon every modern billionaire, every tycoon who attempts to measure their influence in dollars and cents. He is the original archetype of the man who possesses so much wealth that he can bend the world to his will. Mansa Musa's story forces us to ask a timeless question. What is the true measure of a legacy? Is it the gold you accumulate or the world you leave behind? He may have bought the world, but in the end, like all of us, he faced eternity empty-handed. Thank you for joining us on this deeper dive into history. If you found this journey thought-provoking, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that challenge the past. We'll see you next time.